God bless you. Welcome to the Stephen Smith Show. Glad to be in front of you on another night tonight. Is that too loud on this too? Can you hear? Welcome to the Memphis metropolitan area. God bless you to northern Mississippi down there in central Arkansas. Pray that all of you all are having a good night on tonight. So many things happening in our world. Folks, they killed Ghost the other night. I don't know why he didn't have a funeral. I didn't know why he didn't even get a program. How you run for governor, you don't even have a funeral. But lieutenant governor don't even have a funeral. So when y'all figure out what happened, did they cremate Ghost? I don't know. I just let me know which funeral home might have a body. I finally got that over with. So many things happening. The political race is starting to heat up. I'm starting to think Bloomberg, guys. I don't see anything on just my personal opinion. I'm not as excited about hardly anybody that has emerged on the Democratic ticket so far. So I just read on the way over there, Andrew Yang suspended his campaign. So we're in a different set of times. 2020 is going to be a big year. Things are changing. The world is changing. So we're dealing with so many things that we need to. Am I froze, Miss T? Okay. All right. Am I unfroze? Okay. It'll be one of those nights. All righty. Okay. All righty. Well, hey, Facebook. Hey, social media. Hopefully we'll figure out what's going on here. Miss T, have they zonked us tonight or what? I see that. Hey, Sister Boyce on TV, Boyce on Facebook. God bless you, Warden. One of the few female wardens in the federal prison system. So God bless you. God bless all of you all. Excuse the technical difficulties. All right. Stay calm. Stay calm, stay calm, stay calm. Facebook, we're having some technical difficulties on the broadcast. So same thing with YouTube. So I'll just keep talking and maybe sooner or later we'll get this worked out. It's cold, drove halfway across town and dealing with a lot of other stuff. So hopefully you all are doing well on tonight. I had intended to speak tonight from a subject called Surrounded by Enemies. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you feel like you're surrounded by enemies. I've been in that situation on more than one occasion. I can guarantee that. Where times where I've dealt with being surrounded by opposition, being surrounded by people who don't have my best in mind. And folks, you got to learn how to operate in those times. I mean, there's what makes the great is that the great find a way to operate even when they're surrounded by opposition. You know, there are times, there are seasons where opposition is grand, you know, and I actually got a biblical text I was going to reference, but it looks like my TV thing tonight is seeing better times. But so I'm just going to go live and talk to you all. There are literally times where you're going to find yourselves surrounded by opposition. There's always somebody, when you have promise on your life, You're not the only one that sees it. Some of your haters, some of those who like detracting from you, some of those who don't have your best interest in mind, they see that you have promise on your life. So they come to steal that promise. And oftentimes we get wearied down just by how many battles we have to fight. We get wearied down when we're surrounded by enemies. Who wants to always feel like they got to be on their tippy toes with their best fight game to do what we're doing? Folks, I'm serious. There are times. Am I live now? Okay. I went on and shared on Facebook and YouTube while I'm having a technical. I don't know what is that in the background? Is that police association?
Yeah.
Oh, so I went to another background.
Yeah, it's uploading now. It's still loading though.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. You know, you're going to have your seasons where you're going to be surrounded by opposition, people that don't have your best in mind. I wanted to share from a subject tonight. I'm just going to start it and I'm going to go bullets and just go with it because we've been affected by technical difficulties on tonight. Kind of confused why the other show just went straight through.
You can just keep going. It does this a lot.
Okay, Miss Debbie, I'm gonna be talking. I'm gonna be calling. Surrounded by opposition. There are just some times where we're surrounded by opposition, where those who are our antagonists far outnumber those who would support our cause. And a lot of times, because of the adversity that life delivers, some people wilt, some people melt under the pressure because they're surrounded by people don't like them. We live in a crazy world. You can do everything right as Jesus did, and somebody will have a problem with you. I'm telling you that there are just literally seasons in your life where you're going to be surrounded by oppositions. You got to be able to walk in a room full of people that can't stand you, that hate your guts, and still know that if God be for you, he's more than a world against you. Folks, you got to stop melting and wilting right at the precipice. Preach, Steve, at the precipice of greatness because somebody doesn't like you. You know, you're going to find times and seasons where people are surrounding you, where enemies seem to abound in your life. I'm going to bless anybody that actually watches this show on television because it's quite frustrating. But I'm going on with what I'm saying. You're going to be surrounded by opposition. You're going to be surrounded by people that don't like you. You'll be surrounded by people that don't have your best interests in mind. Will you succumb to the pressure? Or will you rise above the pressure? Will you rise above the grain? Will you rise above those who wilt under pressure? Folks, there are going to be some seasons in your life where you look for your people that are in your corner, and your corner is going to be pretty lean. And you're going to have to look somewhere else, and it seems like that corner is pretty rapid. I was going to use the text from 2 Kings 6, where Elisha was telling the king of Israel what was said in the bedroom of the king of Syria, whatever, however that goes right there. I could explain it good, but I'm getting more and more frustrated when I look at the television. When he looked at all of that. And Elisha's servant, the king of Syria, sent a whole army out. And the servant of the man of God came out in and looked. And everywhere he looked, he saw opposing chariots, antagonistic horses, and the forces of the enemy surrounding him. So the servant of the man of God say, "Alas, master, how shall we do?" Folks, I'm speaking a word into your life. I'm speaking a word dead center, because there are going to be some seasons in your life. And then the prophet's response, Elisha the prophet, he said, "Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see." And the Lord opened his eyes, and the young man saw, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots, a fire round about Elisha. The young man had an unseen advantage. You have an unseen advantage. There's more to you than what appears to the eye. Folks, look, I'm speaking a word to you. There are going to be some seasons where you're surrounded. Everywhere you look, you're going to see war clouds. You're going to see war clouds in the South. You're going to deal with problems in the family. You're going to go to work, and you're going to deal with problems there. You got to in some auxiliary at church, or you're a preacher and stuff, and you're dealing with situations there. Folks, it's going to come. There are going to literally be some days where you're surrounded by enemies. Folks, look, I'm telling you to keep pressing on towards your goals. Keep marching towards your purpose. A lot of times the enemy comes to sack you. That's an old English word right there. Comes to sack you, to take you under. See, the Germans perfected a form of war. I think it was in World War II. And their form of battle was called a blitzkrieg. And what a blitzkrieg was, it was called lightning war. What they did is they used every resource under their power, every particular gun, every particular man, every particular part of their army, every apparatus. From the start of the battle, they hit you with everything but the kitchen sink from the jump street. And most people wilt when there's an attack that bad. And folks, there's some folks that have gotten together and planned right behind your back, and they coming at you with a blitzkrieg. They coming at you from the north, sometimes on the job. They coming at you from everywhere. They're coming. It's amazing sometimes that you got to be able to keep on pressing, and pressing is difficult when you come against all this stuff that comes your way. I'm trying to press. I'm here tonight, and I'm freezing, and I'm going out, and I'm freezing, and I'm going out. But you got to stay on purpose. Folks, if you are moved by everything that you see, you'll be crazy. They'll send you to the Farney farm. I know you look outside your door and you see problems, while some see blessings and some see opportunities. Some of us see hindrances and some of us see obstacles. Folks, I'm telling you, don't be moved by what you see. That's why the Apostle Paul admonished us in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 7, that we walk by faith and not by sight. Preach, Steve, even on technical difficulties night. Child of God, son, there are going to literally be some people sometimes when you're surrounded by enemies. I mean, you're going to look and you got folks at work working against you. You haven't done anything. You work circumspectly. You abide by the clock. You don't take the extra 5-minute breaks. When you get off, it's 4:59 and 59 seconds before you even close that drawer when everybody else has been gone for about 35 minutes. So they call you good boy. They call you good girl. They call you, they try to suck up. They call you brown nose. But all you're trying to do is fulfill your working as if unto the Lord. But folks, there are going to be some seasons where you're surrounded by enemies. Sometimes you're going to have them undercover spies right underneath your nose. I know them undercover where they smile in your face. That's what the OJ said. They smile in your face and they'll stab you in your back. And there's some Christian backstabbers. I got to introduce that to you. There's some aisle dancing double agent. There's some
spiritual spies, and there's some sanctified snitches that they come, they come and bring a lie, and whatever you tell them, they're gonna take it somewhere else. Child of God, I'm speaking. I don't know where that one came from, but I caught that one right in the midst. When you're surrounded by enemies, and a servant of the man of God was looking at his scope, and everything that he saw on his scope, everything that he saw in the natural spelled doom and gloom. Preach, Steve. Oh boy, I'm glad I got some technical difficulties on tonight. Everything that he saw was doom and gloom. Everywhere he looked was dismay. Everywhere he looked was imminent defeat. But the man of God said, Lord, open his eyes that he may see. I'm telling you, there's some of y'all out there with possibility blindness. I'm telling you, some of you all out there with opportunity blindness. Right in the midst of all the hell that you're seeing, God's sending to you one of the greatest opportunities of your life. That God's brought you to the kingdom for such a time as this. That God saw way on past your current dilemmas and your current crisis, and God saw a blessing. I think it's Corinthians 16:30 or 2 Corinthians 16:30. It's one of the two, but the scriptures recorded. It said that for a great and effectual door has been opened unto me, and there are many adversaries. Folks, if you want to go through great doors, you're gonna have some adversaries. Adversaries is a word that's akin to our 2020 street vernacular that we call haters. You're going to have some enemies. You're going to have some adversaries. You're going to have some antagonists. Preach, Steve. I am. I'm telling you that you're going to go, but will you let the fact that you have each of these group of folks keep you from the great and effectual door? Folks, you can't be moved by what you see. Sometimes you're going to have to march to the beat of a different drum. Sometimes you're going to have to see what everybody else isn't seeing. Sometimes you're going to have to keep pressing where others aren't pressing. I'm telling you, because you can look outside of your door and you'll be willing to wave the white flag. And if you look in the natural, so many of us would have already been down for the count. So many of us would have already gave in. So many of us would have already tossed in the towel. But I'm telling you that some of us look deep down with the eyes of faith, and we open our eyes. Child of God, I'm telling you, to have an eye-opening experience with God. I know that you've been talking to them 7 melancholy folks and your folks. I kind of admonish some people I know, and I don't want to step on any toes. But if you're always around negative people, you're a sum total of the 5 to 7 people that you talk to all the time. You got to get away from can't do. You got to get away from can't have. You can't get away from those folks that said there's no way. You got to be around people who open up your vistas, that send you passageways, to give you new mental passageways, to give you that I can, I will, and I must. I'm speaking this to you because misery loves company, and it's time for you to break out of that company. It's time for you to sign up with another team. Folks, you got to see what everybody else doesn't see. I read a book the other night, and it was talking that hard work is the mantra of the middle class, while the rich work with their mind. Folks, I'm talking to your mental banks tonight. I'm going inside of your mind. The Bible says in Romans 12, verse 2, that ye be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You need to have some new thoughts. You need to start thinking some new things. You need to start having mental sessions that aren't akin to what you're doing. Find time to spend on your dreams. Spend time thinking of your goals. Folks, I'm talking about right while you're surrounded by enemies. I know it looks like you're going to go down for the count. But the servant of the man of God, not only did he say, Lord, open his eyes, then he gave the young man, his servant, an amazing revelation. He said, there are more with us that be with than they that be with him. Be with them. Yes. And so what shall we then say unto these things? The writer wrote, if God be for us, he's more than a world against us. The scriptures declare, preach, Steve, that one can chase 1,000 and two can put 10,000 to flight. I remember back in the day, we used to sing a song back on at First Baptist Beale Street Church. It was right in BTU. We went to our first church that we went to, preach, Steve. First church, that was the first evening program. That was probably about 2:30, 3-ish. And then we went to the second church for our A and B selection. That was about 4 o'clock. Then we came on back to church. That was called BTU, Baptist Training Union. I didn't say YPWW. I know I'm Kojic now, but I wasn't Kojic then. I wasn't born in it. I joined it. So I'm speaking this word to you that we came out and then they would sing. It would get late in night service at First Baptist Beale, and then somebody would start this old chorus, get right with God and do it now. Get right with God. He will show you how. And then they would go all the way down at the cross, where he shed his blood. Get right with God. That's what we sing. And then I got older, and we had the youth choir where we started doing those little 2-steps and dash. And they said he would not come down from the cross just to save himself. We kept singing that he decided to die just to save me. Child of God, I'm speaking the word to you. I got happy my own self. John 15:13 says, greater love have no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Hebrews 9 verse 22, and almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without the shedding of blood is no remissions. Romans 5 verse 8, but God commended his love towards us that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Jesus was stung by betrayal. Jesus was mocked. He was slapped. He was beaten. His arms were broken. Jesus was spat upon. He was up all night. Jesus was scourged. He carried the crossbar of the cross, and that crossbar was called the patibulum. It weighed about 75 to 125 pounds, so it was a great weight on him. Jesus was scourged with a short whip called a flagrum, which had several braided leather thongs. They tore into and ripped his flesh. So when they said that he would not come down from the cross just to save himself, I thought of Romans 5 verse 8 where it says that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So I asked the question, if he died for us, I asked the doctor, what killed him? And the doctor said he could have died of hypovolemic shock because of the incredible blood loss. He could have died of circulatory shock due to the pain and blood loss. He could have died of dehydration. He could have died of exhaustion, asphyxia. He could have died of a painful periosteal injury derived from the nails. He could have died of hemohydrosis or bleeding sweat. He could have died of stress-induced arrhythmia. He could have died from the great emotional stress and the great mental anguish. He could have died of a cardiac rupture or acute heart failure. He could have died of cardiorespiratory failure. He could have died from the scourging, which led to contusions that would result from the cuts in the bones and subcutaneous tissues. But if you really want to know the story, saints of God, he died that your sins killed him and my sins killed him. That he was surrounded by enemies at all times, this man, and he opened not his mouth. He was despised and rejected of men. The scripture says in Isaiah 53, it says, surely, that means without a doubt, he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, and we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was placed upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Saints of God, there are just going to be some times that you're surrounded by enemies. I know I had technical difficulties on the night. I'm praying for my guy Penny Hardaway. That's why I brought my Memphis hat, because y'all trying to turn on him. I know Penny, he was the talk of the town, and now y'all done turned on Penny. But I'm speaking a word, a prophetic word, even over Penny Hardaway on tonight, that God keep you, that God's going to lift you, even though you're surrounded by enemies, right there in the midst of all those boosters that want to go left when you're going right. Child of God, I'm praying for Penny on tonight, and I'm praying for all of you all support Memphis. If we don't start supporting our own, how are we ever going to recruit these guys to come here if we're killing them? These are 17, 18, 19-year-old guys. I got a video out there, I guess it's going viral, supporting Penny Hardaway, and I'm big on that. They're just going to be surrounded, whatever your field of play is. There are going to be some seasons where you're surrounded by enemies. You're going to be surrounded by haters. I know, you're going to be surrounded by those spies. You're going to be surrounded by those aisle dancing, tambourine tapping, woo, snitches. I know there's just some folks that want to take it and they right under the midst of you, bucking and telling somebody else everything that you can do. In spite of what they did, think of Joseph. He went through so many things, and he told his brothers boldly that you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. We serve a God that can cause all things. That means some of them negative things, some of them things that the haters do, some of them things that those that don't like you do, and cause it to work for your good. Folks, let them tire themselves out, because no matter how they're trying to detract from you, God's going to lift you up. I'm speaking to you just like the man Elisha told the servant the servant of the man of God. He looked up to the Lord. He said, Lord, open his eyes. Lord, open the eyes of Memphis, Tennessee. Lord, open the eyes of northern Mississippi. Lord, open the eyes of central Arkansas, and let them see that there be more with us than there that be with them. I know it looks like you're fighting an uphill battle against the odds, but God sent me here tonight with all this technical difficulty to bring you this word that you're about to come out on top. Be blessed, and I'll see you on next week. God bless you.